me first of all acknowledge dignitaries. We have the Honorable Rebecca Schulz. Welcome, Rebecca. And soon we will have the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland joining us as well. Well, let's continue with the acknowledgements. We acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, including the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, the Tsuut'ina Stoney Nakoda, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Goodstoney Nations. The city of Calgary is also home to the historic Northwest Métis, and Calgary is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. The land acknowledgement has special relevance to this meeting. Indigenous peoples lived on these lands in a renewable and sustainable mode of life with sun, wind, water, and earth. Today, we are going to celebrate a deal about sustainable energy derived from beneath the lands that we stand on, and a tacit commitment by the company Eavor to continue to respect the earth, whether we derive our sustenance from above or below the ground. I met John Redfern over 25 years ago. We both shared a passion for technological trends over many lunches. He was CEO of a leading data science company specializing in earth mapping, and I was a young financial analyst following technology and economic trends. A lot of things that you were digitizing above the grounds included power line infrastructure and such, while I was documenting a lot of things that were going on below the ground. As a geoscientist, I was also following the trends back then, remembering this was the 1990s, the trends that were emerging here with young budding companies that had expertise in horizontal and directional drilling. Measurement well drilling was becoming a new thing, as was logging well drilling. These were nascent technologies that were developed here in Calgary, and championed and pioneered and later spread around the world. It was amazing to both John and I that you could drill and steer a metal pipe several kilometers down into the earth and place a drill bit, such as the one to my left, very precisely in a location to tap into the resources of the earth. And those were foundational moments for both of us as we thought about the technologies that were shaping the way we live, work, play, derive our energy from both above the ground and below the ground. Now, those of you know that both John and I maybe should recognize the fundamental difference between both of us, and that is that I try and predict the technological and economic and innovation trends, whereas John is actually the doer. He actually makes those trends happen. Not only was he, as I said, the CEO of a data science company, he later went on to China as a tech entrepreneur and came back. And 7 years ago, John and I reconnected again at the Creative Destruction Labs. He talked about his vision of creating a convection loop in the earth, which was a really audacious thing, but I immediately understood what he was saying, given our conversations from a couple decades prior, and also having worked in the geosciences and followed drilling trends. The audacity of what he was trying to do is the equivalent of drilling a well here, 3 kilometers or 4 kilometers down, and then over somewhere to underneath the Bow River. And then drilling a well somewhere by the University of Calgary, drilling down 3 or 4 kilometers, and getting that pipe, which is only about this thick, to connect together underneath the Bow River. If you think about the technologies that are involved and know anything about measurement while drilling or drilling horizontally and all the technologies associated, it really was remarkable thinking and very innovative. And yet, again, a pioneering moment for a Calgary company. Well, as I said, I commentate on early technologies and admit I have a knack for trying to be able to predict the trends going forward, but John and the teams that he assembles, such as those behind me, the people behind me, have a knack for making things happen, actually doing them and shaping change for the betterment of society. All right. Well, at Creative Destruction Labs, I'm proud to say that I was one of several people who helped champion the company to be able to turn their audacious vision into a financing reality. The first funding was done here in Calgary with local money, and that really got the company launched into then being able to tap into a lot of international funds, including money from Europeans and many others, corporate entities, all the way down to Southeast Asia, which John will talk to you about. The importance of what is being accomplished here and the significance of this deal cannot be underscored enough. And I will repeat what I told the audience at the Creative Destruction Lab 7 years ago. We're in a world where we understand the challenges of climate change and the necessity to decarbonize as quickly as possible. We're in a world where renewable energy, by merely mentioning the word renewable energy, many of you probably conjectured solar panels and wind turbines, which is the default these days, and with good reason. Those are amazing technologies that have matured, their costs have come down and are being readily adopted. But knowing what John was talking about 7 years ago, the lights went on for me in understanding that, okay, if this thing can be scaled up and can be repeated over and over again, the costs will come down and we now will have another form of renewable energy that people will be talking about. I truly believe Eavor is on that pathway. And it's on that pathway with the financing at hand and the significance of the financing of this deal going forward. I feel like today is a marriage between the Canada Growth Fund and Eavor. And as MC, that means that it's my job to offer each party a bit of wisdom. To the Canada Growth Fund, PSP, who manages the fund, and the Deputy Prime Minister, who will speak shortly, I will tell you that I have known John and his team for a long time. The accomplishments that they bring speak for themselves, and I can tell you that they will be good custodians of the capital. And that capital is the capital of everyone in this room, because it is public funding. Your money will be paired with more international money, as the announcement of the deal already suggests. But hopefully it will also be a catalyst for more Canadian private capital, for which there is a dearth in this segment, and the importance of the Canada Growth Fund stepping up cannot be underscored enough, because it fills that gap. And hopefully, by filling gaps of this kind of financing, it will also awaken other private Canadian capitals to step up as well. We'll finally also say to the Canada Growth Fund, I believe that geothermal energy is going to be the underdog in renewable energy as we go forward. Is it going to be the savior to get us to net zero on its own? No. But increasingly, I do believe the Eavor Technologies and the Loop technologies are going to be a force that will be increasingly realized and be important in our pursuit of sustainable energy going forward. My wisdom to you, Eavor, and all you behind me. Keep doing what you are doing and do it well. Remember in this round of financing that you are being given the privilege of substantial public capital. That means taxpayer capital. That means the capital of the people and everyone in this room. I don't have any doubt that you will use it well. I know that you will expand internationally, as you already have been doing in Germany and beyond, and garner much attention from all the way to far places like Japan. As you grow, we know the likelihood is that you will attract even more global attention, and we ask that you emblazon the maple leaf wherever you go and wherever your facilities are. It is really important to remind the world that, like our forefathers before us who have encouraged sustainable living, that Canadians are leaders in the pursuit of safe, secure, and sustainable energy from the earth. I now pronounce you investor and investee. Thank you very much. I am now delighted to introduce our Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland, to come to the podium.
Okay, thank you very much. Peter said I would be here shortly he didn't say I would be short when I was here, but of course he's right about that. I am so, so happy to be here today. This is a tremendous moment for Canada, for the Canada Growth Fund, for PSP, for Eavor, for Alberta. Really a great day. Je tiens d'abord à souligner que nous sommes réunis sur les territoires traditionnels des habitants de la région du traité 7 du sud de l'Alberta et de la nation des Métis dans la région 3 de l'Alberta. Je suis très heureuse d'être de retour ici en Alberta aujourd'hui. J'étais ravie de passer un peu de temps avec les membres extraordinaires de l'équipe d'Eavor qui sont ici. Je vous remercie pour votre accueil chaleureux. I do want to start by also taking a moment to thank Deb and Patrick, the amazing team at the Canada Growth Fund, the amazing team at PSP. It is your hard work that has made this announcement today possible. Thanks a lot. And I want to say how nice it is that Minister Schulz is here. She and I work together on another project that is so important for me, and that is our national system of early learning and child care. And that I know is something that she is as passionate about as I am. Fees here in Alberta have been reduced by 50%. That's saving families up to $10,300 per child this year. And actually, I think there are just sitting right here in this little group 3 working mothers. So I think we maybe feel a particular passion for that. And Alberta is on track to reach fees of just $10 a day in 2026. This is making such an important difference for families across Canada, across Alberta, and here in Calgary. So thank you, Rebecca, for your partnership. Now, the great people here at Eavor are doing some incredibly important, incredibly innovative work. And in the years to come, that work will be more important than ever for Alberta, for Canada, and for the whole world. That's because, as we have just heard, today, the world's major economies are moving at an unprecedented pace to fight climate change and to retool their economies to build the net zero industries of today and tomorrow. Canada has to keep up. And we have to not just keep up, we have to be in the lead. And we can be. That is why our Clean Economy Jobs Plan is making historic investments to build Canada's clean economy and to create a new generation of opportunities for Canadian workers and Canadian businesses. One of those investments, and something that I believe is going to be a game changer for Canada's clean economy, is the new $15 billion Canada Growth Fund, whose very first inaugural investment is being made right here today in this amazing company. The Canada Growth Fund is led by some of Canada's top investors, and it is going to invest in Canadian businesses, help them scale, and support Canadians in attracting our share of the trillions of dollars in private capital that are waiting to be invested in the global clean economy. This fund is going to help great Canadian companies like Eavor grow and keep their headquarters here in Canada, here in Calgary, and expand around the world from their Canadian base, as Eavor is already doing. And this investment is going to turbocharge that growth. So I am incredibly proud to announce that the Canada Growth Fund's very first inaugural investment is being made in Eavor, right here in Calgary, here in Alberta. This $90 million investment is going to help Eavor accelerate the world-leading geothermal energy technology, which has the potential to significantly reduce emissions in Alberta, in Canada, and around the world. Just as importantly, this investment is going to help protect and create great paying careers for people right here in Calgary and across Alberta. One of the wonderful things about this company and this technology, as we actually just heard, is that the same skilled tradespeople and engineers who built the oil sands are using those skills to create renewable energy. And I think that is just fantastic. So I am so glad that the very first investment of our flagship Clean Economy Investment Fund is being made here in Calgary, here in Alberta. Because our government's Clean Economy Jobs Plan was built with Alberta at its heart. This province has the resources, the hardworking people, and the expertise that Canada and the world needs. We need Alberta to be at the heart of a strong, growing, clean economy, one that powers Canada and the world and creates great middle-class careers for people across this wonderful province today and in the future. So I am really, really delighted to be here with Eavor today because as a proud daughter of Alberta, I want the people of Alberta to know that our government believes in this incredible province and in the remarkable and talented people who call Alberta home. Today's announcement, the first ever by the Canada Growth Fund, is concrete proof of that. Merci beaucoup. Je cède maintenant la parole à une entrepreneur extraordinaire, une Canadienne, John Redfern. And I do want to say, John, I love the advice we got that wherever you go, you have to have the maple leaf front and center, and you have to have it on all of your projects. I am wearing your badge, and I'm proud to do that. Very, very proud of you and your company. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you very much, Deputy Prime Minister. It's a real honor to have you here. And indeed, sort of even paraphrasing further what you're saying, that here, Alberta, Calgary, where this company originates, is the geoscience center of the universe. And Eavor is championing that. So I want to now introduce to you the Chief Executive Officer of Eavor Technologies, John Redfern.
Paul, are you going to change the branding? Okay. I don't know how I'd possibly follow two acts like that. My head's about this big, so I'm going to ignore all that. And thank you for that kind introduction. I think for myself, as a recipient of a significant investment from CGF here today, we're here primarily to say thanks. So thank you for the investment so far. But if I may, instead of the regular tech talk we do, and we talk about our various engineering things. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Engineering things. I'd like to reinforce some of the things that Peter was saying. I agree there is a gap in the funding ladder that CGF is uniquely positioned to address. Please let me use my personal experience here at Eavor as an illustrative example of that. 7 years ago, we started out the funding ladder, like all entrepreneurs, with sweat equity. Co-founders like myself, Paul, Matt, Janine, we basically worked for free. We did it without seed capital, actually. Yes, you can still do that, believe it or not. We had maybe 40 grand. For this next step, we tapped angel investors, friends, families, Creative Destruction Lab, as Peter was mentioning, which is a great organization. And luckily, we also found in Calgary some super angels, Doug and Carol Beach, Ross McCurdy, people who brought our funding up to about $10 to $15 million. And then at that stage, in the early stage of our R&D, Alberta and Ottawa both stepped up and were very supportive with grants. From Alberta Innovates to Emissions Reduction Alberta to NRCan to Sustainable Development Technology Canada Limited, that's a bit of a mouthful, twice. Collectively, that got us through our field scale pilots. But, and including the the Derek Riddell Everlight facility near Rocky Mountain House, which has been running since 2019 and has really been the foundation of all our progress since then. But after that, we ran into a bit of a wall, or a funding wall. And it was more than just COVID, it was more than just the overall VC downturn. And we also had good support from BDC and EDC, who offered excellent advice, equity, and we hope will help fund some of our future projects. But there was no, that's a hint anyways. There was, yeah, okay. There was no investment, though, from Canadian VCs, reflecting this gap. And even more surprising, no investment from any Canadian strategics. Instead, we had to go on a bit of a world tour to the UK for BP, to Australia for BHP, to Austria for OMV, to Japan for Chubu Electric, even to the US, where we had Chevron, H&P, and I think Microsoft. I think they might actually be here today, but there they are waving in the back. So we had to go around the world to do it, but not a single dollar from Canadian oil cos or oil service companies. Over $500 million in funding in total, yet nothing from the towers behind us. I would put one small caveat on that. There was one person, Kevin Devoux, the CEO of Precision Drilling, who even way back in 2017 personally came and lobbied with us and also gave us free rigs and stuff for our pilot projects. So kudos to Kevin. But so with $500 million, you might ask, where is the missing rungs of this investment funding ladder that I mentioned? What's missing, again, are the Canadian strategics, who should be the ones leading this with scaling capital, and which we hope to encourage. This absence left us and others overly reliant on foreign strategics, who are great partners and everything else, but they have different objectives. In fact, without the CGF, we were already discussing acquisition with a foreign multinational via a very compelling offer from this strategic to solve all our funding needs forever, if you know what I mean. Directly because of the Canada Growth Fund. So we are keeping our independence. We are keeping our R&D and our headquarters here in Calgary. And we're working with CGF. Wow, that was a popular one. Okay. And we're working with CGF to identify Canadian projects to fit into our global pipeline. Ultimately, this help from CGF could enable us, we hope, to do an ever IPO and the creation of a global industry-leading Alberta-based clean tech powerhouse. That's my goal, anyways, or our goal. So we definitely need something like CGF, so they've arrived just in time. If Alberta is to transition their formidable talents into the clean tech realm. This is my personal experience. I'm happy to talk to people about it later, but I know I got to close up quickly here. So all I would add is a big thank you to CGF, a big thank you to our investors, our government supporters, the Eavor team back here, who got us here through all the due diligence, even our bankers and lawyers, yes, even them. They've been burning the midnight oil and really doing an amazing job to get things done for this event. And if I could call out Mike Holmes and Paul Cairns, as well as the ones who actually led this Series B. So well done to all of you. It was quite a ride. Now let's take the day off before we start our Series C. Thank you very much.
Deputy Prime Minister, Minister, assembled guests, I'm Deborah Orida, President and CEO of PSP Investments. Thank you for joining us today. It's a very exciting day for our partners at Eavor Technologies, as well as for PSP. For 2 decades, PSP has successfully invested to support the pensions of hardworking Canadians in the Canadian Public Service, in our armed forces, and in the RCMP. And it's an honor to be the CEO of an organization that invests for such an important purpose to support the pensions of people who have served our country. About a year ago, the Deputy Prime Minister's team approached us with an interesting idea, a novel approach to supporting the transition of Canada's economy. And the idea was to give the investment mandate to PSP. And I have to say, and we've discussed this, at first it wasn't clear we should take that role. But we decided that we would for three important reasons. First, we recognize the market need that Peter talked about. When I was the head of real assets, which included sustainable energies at another organization, we found a lot of programs and funds that were available at the venture capital stage for clean technologies in Canada. But there was a gap in funding at the growth and scale-up stage. Second, I believe as an investor that the whole economy evolution we are experiencing is one of the most significant structural forces facing investors today. And third, we thought we could do a good job. We have deep investment expertise, we operate independently from the government, and we have a track record of success. Last year, in a difficult environment for investors, PSP delivered positive returns and a 10-year annualized return of 9.2%. We also have a history of successfully investing in Canada and in the energy evolution. PSP has been investing in renewable energy since 2011, and we have $50 billion invested in Canada today. Canada's economy, as you know, is blessed with numerous resources, including critical minerals, that have been and will be a strategic and competitive advantage for our country. But this means we need to support the evolution of the economy, and that's where the Canada Growth Fund comes in. By investing the Canada Growth Fund wisely, we can achieve the goal of preserving the capital and therefore having the opportunity to reinvest it and continue to support the transformation of Canada's economy. We believe PSP is well positioned to achieve this goal, and we're incredibly grateful to the Deputy Prime Minister for his trust, for her trust, obviously. With that, over to another great Canadian leader, Minister Schulz.
Minister, last time we shared the stage, I think we also shared the same lift. Yeah. So good afternoon, everybody. It is such an honor to be here, second week in a row with the Eavor team as we continue to celebrate and watch Eavor grow. This is not the first time we've celebrated this amazing team and the great work you're all doing. In fact, the hardest work being done today is by the team behind me. So thank you for what you're doing. But I know it certainly will not be the last. In August, I had the privilege of joining the Eavor team and European dignitaries to celebrate the start of drilling on the first commercial Eavor loop in Germany. I can tell you that there are two things from that day that stood out to me. The first was having German officials remark that they have trust in this technology because of where it comes from, which speaks to the expertise and skills of our energy industry and our reputation as being a world leader. The second was meeting this amazing team, seeing your families, being part of the celebration of that commercial project. It was a big deal, and it still is a big deal. I can tell you, sitting there, hearing the stories of the risk takers, the innovators, in many cases leaving their jobs and starting a company out of their respective basements, taking so much pride in our energy industry, but also taking their expertise, knowledge, imagination, ingenuity, and their willingness to ask the question, what if? It was an honor to be there that day, and I can tell you it sure made me proud to be an Albertan. Every person that I met in their own way reinforced that Alberta spirit that we are known for, hardworking and entrepreneurial, the spirit that put Alberta on the map as an energy powerhouse and will ensure we are a leader in energy innovation and technology for generations to come. Our government believes that innovation and working with industry are the key to reducing emissions in the years ahead. We are so proud to have helped Eavor's Promise early on. In 2019, we provided $2 million to help them demonstrate their technology near Rocky Mountain House, Alberta. And just 4 years later, here we are, they're working on projects in Europe, the US, Canada, and receiving critical investments like the one we're here celebrating today. This is a made in Alberta success story, one that could be a game changer when we look at our energy supply. Using their hard-won expertise in the oil sands, Eavor has applied their drilling knowledge to create a breakthrough technology. Again, a testament to our province's innovative and entrepreneurial spirit, and proof that Alberta's industry can and will use energy and expertise to power the world. Now, while Eavor is an Alberta success story, they are not alone. They are one of dozens of companies working on geothermal projects in this province as we show the world how to reduce emissions and keep growing our energy sector. We're encouraging these companies by working with them. And with a new geothermal regulatory framework, we are building the right conditions for industry to grow and to thrive while tapping into our incredible technical workforce and decades of drilling and geology expertise. Again, with this workforce, unrivaled energy experience, and a pro-business climate, Alberta is the energy innovation hub of Canada. Good things happen. This is one great example when governments focus on supporting businesses and when we work with industry to help foster this innovation. This funding is a great step forward for a promising company, so thank you to the Canada Growth Fund, and I hope to see more investments like this in more Alberta companies, projects, and ideas. We will continue to do our part to help others follow in Eavor's footsteps. We've already committed $887 million in tier funding to help develop more than 250 innovative projects, all aimed at finding new and practical ways to reduce emissions and grow our economy. We've announced $85 million in new funding competitions with Emissions Reduction Alberta since June. This future is founded on realistic, achievable pathways to carbon neutrality by 2050. That's what we're focusing on, and it's part of what today is all about. So thank you for having me here today. Eavor is proof that technological breakthroughs are not only possible, but they're already happening, and they are happening right here. Now, I do once again want to thank the Canada Growth Fund for investing in this innovative company. Eavor, I can't wait to see what comes next, and I'd like to hand it over to Pat Charbonneau, CEO of the Canada Growth Fund.
Deputy Prime Minister, it's a pleasure to meet with you for the first time today. Minister Schulz, it's also a pleasure to meet with you. And thank you, Deb, for your presence and for the great collaboration over the last few months on this journey. My name is Patrick Charbonneau, and I'm excited and honored to lead the Canada Growth team. It's not every day that you have the opportunity to set up such an important venture for our country. Mon équipe et moi sommes extrêmement fiers de prendre en charge ce mandat. Et nous remercions le gouvernement du Canada de nous avoir fait confiance. I would also like to thank our partners at CDEV, Elizabeth Whiteman, who's here in the room, who have worked with us every step of the way since PSP was announced as the manager of the fund in Budget 2023. As an investor, I believe deals speak for themselves. And that's why it's an exciting day as CGF announces its first ever investment. To put things in perspective, 4 months ago, I was sitting at my desk in London, leading PSP's $30 billion global infrastructure portfolio. And today, I'm standing here, downtown Calgary, announcing CGF's first deal ever. That's progress. My colleagues and I have had meetings over the past several months with innovators, developers, and investors from across the country. I would like to underscore our door is open. We are looking to make good deals happen, and today's transaction is proof of concept. Une partie du mandat consiste à investir dans des compagnies au stade de commercialisation. Eavor est un exemple d'une compagnie qui développe des solutions pour accélérer la décarbonation tout en construisant des économies plus fortes et plus propres au Canada et dans le monde entier. Eavor is an example of a company in need of capital to scale its operations and unlock more impact. These are the companies we are searching for at CGF. Let me repeat this. These are the companies we are searching for at CGF. My team and I are committed to making the Canada Growth Fund a success, and we look forward to more updates soon. Thank you very much for being with us to celebrate this milestone. Merci beaucoup.
All right, thank you so much, everybody. We're now going to start the press conference portion of today's event. It'll be one question, one follow-up. Journalists interested in asking a question can line up next to Caroline, who's right here. Alors, on commencera le point de presse d'aujourd'hui. Ce sera une question en suivi. Et les journalistes intéressés sont demandés de se mettre en ligne derrière Caroline. Merci.
Hi, for the Deputy Prime Minister. Hi, we're tucked back here. Elise Bonchio with CBC. So this morning, Ontario's Finance Minister wrote a letter asking for a meeting of the Finance Ministers to discuss Alberta potentially leaving the Canada Pension Plan. Alberta's responded saying, sure, that's fine. We also have some stuff we'd like to discuss that might be off of that topic. So are you willing to take that meeting, and what would be the terms by which you take it?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Peter, the Ontario Finance Minister, called me yesterday. We had a good conversation. He told me he thought it would be a good idea for the finance ministers to get together, the provincial, territorial, and federal finance minister. I thanked him for the initiative, and I told him I absolutely agreed. He went ahead and sent his letter. I also, earlier today, spoke with Nova Scotia's finance minister. Nova Scotia today is the chair of the Council of the Federation, the group of the provinces and territories. So I spoke to Alan, and he agreed with me and Peter that it would be a good idea to have a meeting. So the main reason I'm here is to celebrate the Canada Growth Fund and its first amazing investment. But I am also happy to announce that Alan and I agreed that we will be convening a special meeting of the provincial, territorial, and federal finance minister to talk about the Canada Pension Plan.
The Prime Minister has been fairly critical of this, what we know so far about what's been proposed by Alberta. Some of your cabinet colleagues have been as well, citing that they don't necessarily agree with some of the numbers put forward in that pension report from LifeWorks. Would the federal government commit to doing its own analysis and providing its own numbers as this debate and as these consultations go forward?
Well, you know what? Let me start by saying something that I think is a really important starting point. And that is, we as Canadians are really, really fortunate that the Canada Pension Plan exists. Countries around the world envy us for having such a strong, secure, financially successful pension plan. The CPP is delivering today very strong returns. We can ask Deb, I think she will confirm that as a fellow pension manager, is delivering very strong returns. And those strong returns mean that the CPP is today providing tremendous security for Canadians from coast to coast to coast. It means all of us here can know that we can retire in dignity and security. It is an excellent system, and a system which is working. Canada, the federal government, recognizes that according to the CPP Act, any province does have the right to choose to leave. It's very important, as the Prime Minister said in his letter, that that decision be based on facts and be clearly and well informed. And it is absolutely my conviction and the federal government's conviction that the CPP works really, really well for all Canadians, for all Albertans, And I am looking forward to the opportunity to discuss that further with the finance ministers of all the provinces and territories in the days to come. Thank you.
All right, next question. Prochaine question.
Hi, also for the Deputy Prime Minister, please. Don't go too far. Josh McLean, CBC News. A new report from Food Banks Canada today shows a significant spike in the number of Canadians relying on food banks to survive. And it points the finger at all levels of Canadian government for not doing enough to help low-income Canadians. What's your response to that, and what is your government doing in the short term to help people who cannot afford to feed themselves?
Well, thank you for the question. It is a very important question and a truly heart-wrenching issue. The fact is that these are very, very challenging times for all Canadians, particularly the most vulnerable among us. And our government is really focused on that. We have been very focused on delivering targeted support to the most vulnerable Canadians. We did that by doubling the GST credit at the end of last year. We did that with the grocery rebate this summer. That reaches 11 million of the most vulnerable Canadians. And now, I don't want to say that those two additional checks cover all of the challenges that the most vulnerable Canadians face, but they have been real support for the people who need it most. And our government is also working really, really hard to support Canadians with the cost of living. We're working hard to get prices stabilized. You've seen that with the work we're doing with grocers, getting them to commit to stabilizing prices, with the longer-term work we're doing to bring more competition into the grocery sector. That is how you get lower prices for good. You've seen that in the work we're doing on junk fees, including insisting that banks provide low-cost accounts to Canadians who need them. And then you're also seeing the work that we're doing. One of the areas that I hear from Canadians the most about is concerns about housing. And so that is really why housing has been such a focus for our government, including our announcement just a few weeks ago that we're completely lifting the GST on construction of new purpose-built rental. And that's another policy that's going to create more supply, make rent, affordable rental more available to the Canadians who need it. Thanks.
Okay. And when will the clean investment tax credits be finalized? And how do you respond to some saying your government is dawdling and Canada is falling behind other competitors like the United States?
I say they're wrong. You heard from Patrick how quickly the Canada Growth Fund has been up and running. That is really exceptional. Like, for a $15 billion government fund to have gone in this time, from the first phone call to the first investment is truly amazing. And I say hats off to Patrick and his team, and to Deb and the broader team. And that has happened for two reasons. One, we understood as a government that we did not in-house have the expertise to make the right investments and to make the right investments fast. And we realized that Canada has brilliant professional investors who did have that expertise. The other reason that it has been up and running so quickly is, look at the people here. We have great companies in Canada that, I was going to say desperate. Will you forgive me if I say desperate, John? That's okay? Yeah? That are really desperate for this capital. And, as you've heard from Peter and John and Patrick, desperate for exactly the capital in, this, people used to call it sometimes the valley of death. The venture capital is there, but to really grow, to stay a Canadian-based company, a Calgary-based company, you needed this extra money. So I say this is fast. On the ITCs, Canada, if when we put forward our green industrial plan in the budget just last spring, right? TD came out with a report saying Canada was now level with or ahead of the US in the incentives that we were offering to companies, incentives like the Canada Growth Fund. But I'll just conclude by saying our government absolutely shares that sense of urgency, and you will hear more from us soon about getting all of those ITCs across the line and available for companies like this one and maybe other companies that Patrick will give another little nudge to with some investment. Thanks.
Next question, prochaine question.
Kelly Kratterman, Globe and Mail. This question is for the Deputy Prime Minister as well.
Good column over the weekend.
Oh, thank you. I was wondering if a province was going to exit CPP, who would make the final decision on the amount that province would leave with from the fund? And what do you make of the Alberta number on this, the $334 billion figure?
So thanks for the question. The CPP Act does lay out provisions for this, including the fact that a province can choose to leave. It's never happened before, and that's why I think it is so important to have this meeting of the provincial and territorial finance ministers with me, with each other, with me, and it's something that we're really going to need to talk about and work through. In terms of the number, as the Prime Minister said in his letter, as the CPP-IB also said, we don't think that that number is right. And I would note that the Ontario Finance Minister, Peter, in his letter, focused on the need for rigorous analysis, and I agree with that.
So will you commit to doing your own analysis of CPP and what Alberta would be owed if it withdrew from CPP?
What we're committing to now, and I'm glad to announce it today, is a really important step, which is bringing all the provinces and territories together with the federal government to talk about this. Because, of course, this is an issue which has implications for the whole country. And that's why you've seen the Ontario Finance Minister stepping up.
All right. Next question, prochaine question.
Great, thank you. This is for the Deputy Prime Minister. As you may know, today the Bank of Canada held interest rates and lowered its growth expectations for the Canadian economy. What's your reaction to the decision, and also Governor Tiff Macklem, saying the path for a soft landing for the economy has gotten narrower?
So thank you for the question. Our government really understands that the preoccupation of Canadians today, the thing that people are focused on, is prices at the grocery store, the rent they pay, and for people with mortgages, the cost of their mortgages. And so our focus is really relentlessly on that. It is doing everything we can so that prices at the grocery store can stabilize, so that we can get more homes built fast, and everything we can to create economic conditions that will allow us to get back to macroeconomic stability. We're also really focused on jobs, and one of the things that I am most satisfied about is the strong job recovery we've had since the pandemic hit. More than 1 million additional Canadians are at work today compared to when COVID hit. So, we recognize this is a challenging economic situation. We recognize that prices need to stabilize. We recognize that we need to work as a government to do everything we can so that we can be in a situation where we can have a stable macro environment that it's possible for interest rates to move from their contractionary position. And, you know, we're doing everything in our power. I talked about the work we did with Rebecca on childcare. That is one element. That is a supply-side solution, getting more homes built, a supply-side solution, and long-term investments in the economy. That's what our green industrial policy is about.
Thank you. I have one follow-up for Mr. Redfern.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Great. So sorry, I'm here with the Calgary Herald, Calgary Sun. I mentioned that earlier. What would it take for Eavor to build a commercial scale project in Alberta? We've heard about the one in Germany, of course.
What it'll take is a good prospect. We were looking at a few. Right now, our Canadian projects that we're looking at are in Saskatchewan, Toronto, and Vancouver. But we are actively, you know, especially recently, reinvigorating that search. We have a technology that can go anywhere. But at the start, when you have limited funds, you pick the lowest hanging fruit first. And some of the lowest hanging fruit we found was in places like Germany. But we've also fine-tuned ourselves, and especially with projects that involve heat rather than power, we think that North America is a lot more competitive sooner than we originally thought. So they're coming, projects are coming to Western Canada, to Eastern Canada. That's just not one of the ones that's going right now, but it is a priority. Okay.
All right, we have time for one more question. Une dernière question? No? Okay. All right, that concludes today's press conference. C'est ma conférence de presse. Merci. Thank you, everybody.